Okay, let's greet Annastasia with applause.
It's a real honor to share my testimony today, because I'm here to tell you that I'm almost 51 years old and was raised a Christian, went to Sunday school, taught Sunday school, came here, went to the Divine Principle class. Gideon is a wonderful teacher, very wise beyond his years. You know, who'd have thunk it, that generation? Kind of gives us hope for the youth. And I learned what it all meant and realized, I mean, this is very humbling, that I really knew nothing. And what the Divine Principle has done for me is it gave my life a complete purpose of understanding what all the parts meant. I will not be ashamed to share this story with you, because I feel like there's so much love and wisdom in this room. And I have trust to share this. When I was a young teenager, being a good Christian raised by good parents, I had a dream. And a shadow came, visited me, and I was paralyzed, and it was awful. And I started praying the Lord's Prayer, and it would stop. The next morning, I would tell my parents, and my mother would bring the priest, and he would come and bless the house, and holy water in every corner, and do a special prayer. And then it would stop, and then it would happen again. And then I would do the Lord's Prayer, and it would stop. And I didn't know why it was happening. We'd have the priest over again. And then it wouldn't stop with the Lord's Prayer until I screamed, "Mom, Dad." And I realized two things. Your faith can prevent evil, and also the love of your parents and your family can stop evil. But I couldn't understand why. Fast forward, I'm 18 years old, and my mother takes me to a monastery in Greece. So I met this fabulous nun over there, and she seemed full of wisdom. And of course, being a youth that was very confused about why certain things happen, I shared with her what I was going through. And she said to me that the devil picks wives, but it's never the ones who sin. It is the ones who are loved by God, that love God the most, that he wants to overcome and take. It is in that challenge that he wants to take away his children from God. And she did a prayer. I mean, this was like life-changing in a lot of ways. She did this prayer, and I never saw it again. So I felt that through the knowledge that was unveiled, it had stopped. Now, 7 years later, I married my husband. I didn't tell him about this, because I really didn't tell this to anybody. Something very strange and kind of not pleasant. So we were just married, and he wakes me up in the middle of the night, all sweaty, and he says to me, "You're not going to believe what happened." I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "I just fought off the devil." I said, "What?" He said, he came and he said, "That's my wife, not yours." So then I shared with him what had happened, and he said, "Don't worry, because I kicked the living bleep out of him, and he ain't coming back." And that's when another lesson in my life occurred, which was the love of your God, the love of your parents, and the love of your spouse to defeat evil, because whenever something is really good, he will come in and try to stop you, because that's what he does. That's what Lucifer does. So we were married, and we, of course, like every couple, we want to have children and extend our family, and it wasn't happening for us. So went to the doctors, and I had a whole lot of problems. At 30 years old, they wanted me to have a hysterectomy. I said, "That's not going to happen." I cried, screamed. I had tumors. I had all these surgeries. I'm like the bionic woman. They said to me, "Your tubes are completely damaged." I had over 2 million stitches. And they said to me, "The only way possibly that you might get pregnant is through in vitro fertilization, but we don't even know that you'll be able to carry." But my husband and I knew, and we had faith, that no matter what would happen, we will have our child. And all the money we saved and worked for went to our medical expenses, and we just knew we could not continue life without feeling parenthood. So at 41 years old, with in vitro, we get pregnant with our son. And on the 5th month of the eve of Mother's Day, my husband takes me out to celebrate, and that's when I started bleeding. And he took me to the hospital, and I gave birth prematurely, and our son died. So I couldn't stop. Obviously, it was the darkest point in our lives. And when the doctor said, your body's going to need a year to heal, it was like a death sentence, because at 41, 42 is like, do I have even any eggs left? So I'm in the hospital crying, screaming. They would send people in. What's your name? Do you know where you are? So I was losing my mind. And on the 3rd day, I just said, and I'm a homeopathic person. I don't like taking drugs. So I said finally to the doctor, I said, I'm tired of crying and feeling this sadness. Can you just give me something to sleep? Because honestly, I wanted to sleep and not wake up at that point for the first time in my life. And he gave me something in the middle of the night. I opened my eyes, and I see a shadow holding my hand. And you know what I thought. You son of a gun, you took my child. And I started to scream and fight, but I was paralyzed. So finally my voice came out. They came in, they opened the lights, because I was in a secluded room by myself. And I had to make a decision, because if it wasn't for my faith, I would have taken my life. I felt like a complete failure. There was no purpose in my life without becoming a mother. And it was God that saved me, and I realize that now. A few weeks later, I'm still recovering, and my body felt a certain way. And it was a Sunday evening, and I shared to my husband, I said, you're going to have to probably institutionalize me, because I feel like I'm pregnant. And he said, well, I'll take you to the doctor first thing in the morning. We'll go for a sonogram. You probably have another tumor, and we'll take care of it. We're not giving up. I said to him, I had the audacity, I said, well, we're Christians. Aren't we supposed to believe in miracles? Not too crazy to say that, right? So he said, well, let's just go get the sonogram and see how it goes. Go in there, and everybody, of course, all the doctors knew my story, years trying to have kids. We just lost our son. Oh, Anastasia, don't worry, we're going to be okay. Whatever you need, we're going to take care of it. Don't, and all of a sudden, on the big screen was a sack, and it was our daughter. So I said, how, we're crying. How did this happen? I'm not, And what they explained to me was about once a year, they get this family who can't have children, and no modern medicine can explain how they can possibly conceive. And my daughter, our daughter, is listed as a miracle at NYU. So we gave her both grandmothers' names, because she was our miracle child, and brought her to the church. And at 4 years old, she comes over and she says to me, Mommy, I want to have a baby sister. It only took us 15 years. I'm 45, and certainly don't want to be ungrateful to God. You blessed us with a miracle. There are, I'm sure, many, many other people who need a miracle. I can't possibly ask for that again. That wouldn't be right. So I had to think about it, because I couldn't say, well, Mommy's old, or Mommy has problems, to a 4-year-old. So I said to her, how about this? Why don't you pray to God? And if God wills it, it's meant to be. And next thing you know, I'm 46 years old, and I miss my womanly thing. And I'm working hard day and night, and I'm saying to myself, you know what? Stress. Because in our family, it's the late 50s, that we go through the changes. I said, oh, it's got to be the stress thing, all this stuff. So I don't even take a test. Till I wake up with my head in the toilet. And I said, this is, eerily familiar. Call my husband. I called my job first. I said, I can't come to work. They were like, really? And I'm like, yeah. Call my husband. I said, listen, on the way back home from work, pass by the pharmacy and get a pregnancy test. He goes, what? I said, listen to me. I think I know what I'm talking about. He goes, okay. He's almost laughing, right? Come home. It says, pregnant. I give it to my husband. I say, we did it. And of course, in the Greek traditional fashion, now I'm going to give you a son. Well, not everything always works out the way you have it planned. We gave her both grandfathers' names, and that was the first lesson for Xenia Maria, which was, if you pray, God listens. You know, so that was a great lesson to learn at 4 years old. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because we came here and took this divine principle class. And on day one, when we learned about the original sin, I mean, Gideon could attest to this, I'm crying. You know, because, you know, it made sense what the original sin was, because we have been in a fight against good and evil since the beginning of humanity and since the beginning of time. And it only makes sense that from birth we have this fight, and that Lucifer is always trying to take his daughters from him, who love him and want to be pure and want to be mothers and want to love God and be the monarch in their family, the matriarch in their family, I should say. And then, of course, for the man's role to be like the Adam, to try to, you know, love his wife and defend his wife. And so that's when it made sense to me that we are all being tested. I was not special, but where I was unique is that I understand why now. And that's the story that I felt very compelled, that it made sense to me. The other thing that was missing in my story that I want to fill in is when they told me my body needed to heal after losing our son a year, I actually conceived 40 days after the death of my son. 40. Now, we hear 40 in the Bible quite a bit. Didn't really know what it meant to me. You know, I'm nothing special. I'm just an average person. And then I'm listening to the class, and I'm like, it was my test. God was testing us. We're being tested all the time. I could have taken my life. I could have did something stupid. I could have just said, you know what, God, you're not here. That's what he wanted us. That's what Lucifer wanted me to do, was to defy God. And I remember at one point I said, I don't know why, God, this is happening. I was crying and praying. I said, I don't know why. But please give me the strength. And that's all I asked for, is for the strength. And at that 40 days, and I realized also that shadow that was with me in the hospital, that was my guardian angel. Because as soon as it crept up into me that I might want to take my life, that angel was there to say, no, God is with you, God loves you, and you shall overcome. And we were blessed with two beautiful babies. And this is a story of inspiration for everyone. But I wouldn't have been able to learn that to make sense to me if it wasn't for the divine principle. And I thank Reverend Moon for really putting that all together. And we just got the book, actually, so we're going to keep learning. Because you know what? Life is too precious to not understand the reason behind it all, and where our faith can take us to such heights. And honestly, I just feel like screaming it off the mountaintops, because people need this hope and faith. Right, Gideon? Amen. Maybe we'll do one of those videos together, right? It goes shock people. It's a table. Bring your baby, too. She seems to be really cooperative. So, but thank you for hearing that. Our family's so blessed to be here with you all great people. And there's a couple of other things that I just wanted to share real fast, because we are in a battle of a lifetime for good and evil, and everything from, you know, election integrity, fighting for the audit, fighting for Second Amendment rights, fighting against critical race theory, fighting against mandated vaccinations, and we could go on, because we're getting attacked at all fronts. But I do want to share that this is a big week for our children and for parents, because even though some of us, or many of us, homeschool, even though some of us choose alternative co-op programs and whatnot, and that's up to the families to choose. But if we don't have a society that's not indoctrinated by our schools, then guess what? We don't have a society, because our children need to make friends with other children, and we certainly don't want them being corrupted at some point by unlike-minded individuals. So we need to fight for society, we need to fight for community. If you could put up the website. We started this organization, which I think I mentioned once before, called Pennsylvania Advocacy for Children's Education. And we support 2 bills right now that are in the House. If you can go to paceunited.org and sign this petition, okay? And basically it says, based upon your rights, your constitutional rights, you do not believe in contact tracing your children. You do not believe in scientifically testing on your children with the PCR test, which we know has been debunked as of December. You're not allowed to touch our children, period. And there's 2, the other bill would have to be, has to do with, which makes a lot of sense, has to do with being able to have each school have the entire curriculum, including tests, books, readily available in the summertime before the year begins. So parents know what's going to be taught to their kids. I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, this is ridiculous. You find out kind of in shock after the fact. It should never be that way. So those are 2 bills that are, one of the main sponsors is Russ Diamond, who's been really great. And we want to make sure to support that. It's easy peasy, click, paceunited.org. And also, if you could go back to that sheet right there on the red button, and when you hit on that, every parent, if you are going to school, should submit that to their principal. And basically what it says, it's a legal document. We have attorneys working with us. It's a legal document that states that the school or any other entity is not allowed to contact trace your child, not allowed to test them, not allowed to do any scientific medical experiments, not allowed to quarantine your children or anything else. It is to protect your rights, and that you give to your principal, and that goes in their file. And at least if you're going to make that option, they know where you stand. This Thursday is a big day for the Delaware Valley School District. We were blessed last month to have many of you there, and it made a difference because we fought down the new curriculum, the new books. But this fight is not over. We have such great people like Carrie Williams, who's been really fighting the forefront with the curriculum. And the things that she and the team has found has been really unbelievable. Imagine, as a science, it's biology, physics, chemistry, and global warming. Science, right? Sounds like political propaganda. So, and they start from, pre-K. And trying to sexualize our children. Well, we're not going to have it, okay? Because it's easier for us to walk away, but you know what? We'll fight. So this Thursday at 6 p.m. over at the Delaware Valley High School on Route 6 and 209 at 6 p.m. is a school board meeting. And our sources have told us that the other side will be there. All 20 of them, I think. And maybe 2 of them are parents. So they have an agenda, a clear agenda. And we need to be there in record numbers. We need at least 200 good people there because we are the majority. We're not going to let this lunatic fringe come in and trying to brainwash our children into all this nonsense and really give hate. They're very tricky. They give these words like equity. Wow, equity sounds good. Doesn't it sound like equality, right? No. Equity means that based upon your skin color, if I'm white, guess what? I got white privilege. Well, I'm still waiting for my check, okay, because I've been working since I was 12 years old, so I don't know how that works out for anybody. So it's a bunch of nonsense of division and hatred. But thank you for your time, and I hope that if you can make it Thursday at 6 p.m. over at the high school, it would be wonderful because we do need to represent. Thank you so much. God bless you all.